Did you know that lentils, that food many consider healthy, may actually be inflaming your gut and stealing your energy every time you eat them if they're prepared the wrong way? It may sound exaggerated, but stay with me because what you're about to understand can completely change the way you see this food. I also believe that lentils were the perfect solution because they are affordable, nutritious, and rich in plant protein. I ate them almost every day thinking I was taking care of my health until I realized that for years I had been making such basic mistakes that instead of nourishing myself, I was sabotaging my digestion and my energy. Has it ever happened to you that after eating lentils, you felt bloated, gassy, or simply had no energy? Have you noticed that even when consuming this healthy protein, you don't feel stronger or more vital? The industry doesn't talk about this, but the truth is that most people make at least one of the 5 most common mistakes when preparing lentils. These mistakes not only cancel out much of the benefits, but can also cause intestinal discomfort, fatigue, and even reduce mineral absorption over time. Today we're going to break down these 5 mistakes, show why they harm your health, how to identify if you're making them, and most importantly, how to fix them, so lentils can become the superfood they promise to be. By the end, you will know how to prepare lentils in a safe, tasty, and much more nutritious way. Also understanding why so many people struggle with gut issues without imagining the cause lies in the way they cook them. The first point that almost no one notices is proper soaking. Lentils carry natural plant defense compounds like phytates and certain lectins that can irritate sensitive intestines and interfere with iron and zinc absorption when consumed frequently. Soaking for 8 to 12 hours with water changes reduces these anti-nutrients and some of the fermentable sugars responsible for gas known as FODMAPS. A pinch of acid in the soak, such as lemon juice or vinegar, helps activate natural phytases and speed up phytate breakdown. Food technology research shows significant reductions in phytates and improved digestibility after soaking and discarding the soaking water, with additional gains when rinsing well before cooking, as reported in the Journal of Food Science. The second mistake is undercooking or cooking the wrong way. Insufficient cooking keeps lectins active and leaves starch less available, forcing the gut to deal with semi-raw grains that ferment excessively. For safety and digestibility, use moderate pressure until the grain is soft inside and whole on the outside. Bring to a vigorous boil for a few minutes before closing the pot and discard any initial foam. Technical guidelines cited by the FAO describe that moist heat and pressure cooking efficiently inactivate lectins, preserving nutrients better compared to long low-heat cooking, which requires a lot of water and ends up leaching minerals. The third mistake is ignoring food combinations and timing. Want to get the most iron from lentils while also reducing discomfort? Pair them with a source of vitamin C like lemon, bell pepper, or fresh parsley at the end of cooking because vitamin C increases the absorption of non-heme iron. Avoid consuming them with coffee, black tea, or red wine in the same meal because tannins reduce iron absorption. Include a cereal like rice or quinoa to form a more complete protein profile and soften the fiber load per serving. For people with intestinal sensitivity, controlling the portion size makes all the difference. The fourth mistake is skipping simple techniques that boost digestibility, such as sprouting and light fermentation. Letting already soaked lentils rest drained and moist for 24 to 36 hours until tiny sprouts appear further reduces phytates, activates enzymes, and increases B-complex vitamins. Food science studies report increased bioavailability of iron and zinc after sprouting, as well as an improved amino acid profile. Fermenting in preparations like soups with fermented broth base or spreads that rest for a few hours with a little lemon juice and garlic also helps pre-digest carbohydrates. The fifth mistake is forgetting digestive aids. Carminative spices such as cumin, coriander, ginger, bay leaf, fennel, and a pinch of asafoetida, traditional in Indian cuisine, reduce gas and speed up gastric emptying. A piece of kombu seaweed in cooking provides minerals and helps with the final texture. Proper chewing and drinking enough water throughout the day complete the simple package that avoids overloading the gut. It's worth remembering that lentils are rich in soluble and insoluble fiber, high-quality plant protein, folate, potassium, and iron. Prepared correctly, they help control blood sugar thanks to the slower release of glucose and the formation of resistant starch, especially when you cook them, chill them in the fridge for a few hours, and then reheat them, a strategy that increases the resistant starch fraction and improves the postprandial glucose response, according to reviews published in Nutrients in 2020. The role of these defensive compounds in nature is clear: to make any animal that eats them feel unwell and think twice before attacking the plant again. From an evolutionary perspective, this is ingenious, but for your digestion, it can be a disaster when lentils are improperly prepared. When you consume lentils with high levels of lectins, these proteins act like tiny suction cups attaching to the lining of the intestine, like microscopic hooks clinging to the mucosa, which in susceptible people promotes irritation, increased intestinal permeability, and low-grade inflammation over time. In addition, excess lectins and the presence of phytates and oligosaccharides can hinder the absorption of iron, zinc, and calcium, while also fueling fermentative processes that cause gas, bloating, and heaviness. First, filtered water. This is not overkill. Standardizing the water reduces residual chlorine and trace metals that can alter pH and interfere with the grain's natural enzymes, improving soaking efficiency. Second, the correct ratio. Use 3 parts water to 1 part lentils to ensure complete hydration, preventing some grains from remaining hard in the center and therefore more resistant to breaking down anti-nutrients. Third, mild acidity. Add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice per cup of lentils. This slightly acidic medium helps activate phytases and promotes the breakdown of phytic acid bonds, reducing its mineral binding capacity. Fourth, a minimum time of 12 hours and ideally 24 hours, especially in cooler environments. The process is slow and worth every minute because complete hydration and enzymatic action take time to occur evenly. Fifth, water changes every 8 to 12 hours. This removes compounds already released into the liquid and reduces the load of highly fermentable sugars. Always discard the soaking water and rinse until the water runs clear. In my clinic, I see a recurring pattern. Luz, a dedicated vegetarian, ate lentils every day for 2 years and felt constantly tired with recurring intestinal discomfort. Her test showed low ferritin and a B12 deficiency, despite what seemed like a well-planned diet. After adopting the mild acid soaking protocol, water changes, and proper cooking, within 2 weeks she reported less gas and more energy, and after a month her ferritin began to rise. For B12, professional guidance was supplementation, as recommended by nutrition societies for strict vegetarians. Cases like this illustrate a key point supported by FAO technical guidelines on legume processing and by food science reviews that link proper soaking and cooking to lower phytate and lectin content and better mineral bioavailability. To know if your soaking is failing, look for clear signs: bloating after a meal, excessive gas 2 to 4 hours later, feeling tired instead of energized, irregular bowel movements, or the sensation that lentils just sit in your stomach for a long time. If these signs appear frequently, lectins and oligosaccharides are probably winning the battle. Adjust the method. Use a glass or ceramic container, never aluminum, which can react with acidity. Keep lentils fully submerged, cover the jar, refrigerate if the weather is hot, and change the water on schedule. When serving, finish with a vitamin C source such as lemon juice, raw bell pepper, or fresh parsley to boost non-heme iron absorption. Avoid consuming coffee, black tea, or red wine with the meal, as tannins compete for the same iron absorption pathway. Portions matter too. Cooked servings between half and 1 cup tend to be better tolerated by those with sensitive guts, which aligns with recommendations from groups studying highly fermentable carbohydrates. The second deadly mistake is inadequate cooking. This is especially dangerous because you can get the soaking step perfectly right, but if you fail in cooking, you will still be consuming compounds that work against your health. Here's the problem. Most people cook lentils as if they were pasta, drop them into boiling water, wait until they soften, and that's it. But lentils are not pasta. They are little chemical fortresses that require almost military precision to conquer. When you cook them at the wrong temperature or for too short a time, several problematic compounds survive. First, residual lectins that weren't fully neutralized during soaking, which require sustained temperatures of at least 100 degrees Celsius for a proper period to be deactivated. Second, enzyme inhibitors that act like small locks, interfering with your digestive enzymes' ability to break down proteins and carbohydrates. If they remain active, you finish the meal with poorly digested protein and a higher chance of intestinal irritation. Third, complex oligosaccharides that promote gas and bloating, which require longer cooking to become simpler and more tolerable. Professional cooking method: after proper soaking, drain completely and rinse under running water until clear. Use a thick bottom pot, because even heat distribution is crucial. To cook, use 4 parts fresh water to 1 part lentils. Add a pinch of baking soda to speed up softening and the breakdown of tough compounds, improving digestibility. Bring to a vigorous boil for the first 10 minutes without lowering the heat. Then reduce to medium and keep a gentle, steady simmer. Time varies by type. Red lentils usually cook in 25 to 30 minutes, green in about 35 minutes, brown in 40 to 50 minutes. How to know they're done? Properly cooked lentils break down with light pressure from a spoon, have no hard center, the water is slightly cloudy but not foamy, and the texture is creamy rather than mushy or tough. Improperly cooked lentils remain very firm even under pressure, show a different texture in the center compared to the exterior. Leave the water overly foamy or too clear, and give a coarse bite. A pressure cooker can solve a lot as long as it's used properly. Pressure raises the boiling temperature and speeds up the inactivation of lectins and inhibitors. For consistent results, cover with water 2 to 3 fingers above the grain, maintain the 4:1 water to lentil ratio, do the initial boil with the lid slightly ajar for a few minutes to remove foam, and only then seal and pressurize. At standard pressure, red lentils usually need 8 to 10 minutes, green 12 to 15, brown 15 to 20, with a natural pressure release of about 10 minutes before opening. Do not fill above half the usable volume. Avoid acidic ingredients at the start, such as tomato or vinegar, because acidity strengthens the skin's pectin and makes softening harder. Add salt only at the end to avoid toughening the skin. If you want a lighter profile for the gut, add carminative herbs and spices from the start, such as bay leaf, cumin, coriander seed, and ginger. Baking soda helps, but in excess it can degrade B vitamins and leave a residual taste, so keep it minimal. Those who prefer to avoid baking soda can compensate with thorough soaking, vigorous initial boiling, and adequate time under pressure. Thermal control is more than a detail. Lectins and inhibitors are sensitive to sustained moist heat. Technical guidelines on legumes and FAO reports describe how the combination of soaking plus proper cooking substantially reduces these anti-nutritional factors and improves iron and zinc bioavailability. At the same time, food science reviews show that complete cooking lowers fermentable oligosaccharides that cause gas. In practice, this means less bloating and more comfort after the meal. This is mistake 3, toxic food combinations. Lentils are already naturally rich in phytates, which bind to iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium and reduce the usable fraction of these minerals. When you add vegetables high in oxalates, such as spinach, Swiss chard, and beet greens, you introduce another group of binders that primarily compete for calcium. In predisposed individuals, excess oxalate contributes to the formation of urinary crystals, so the heavy combination of phytates and oxalates can be a setback for those seeking to improve iron and calcium stores. Other combinations that hinder absorption include tea and coffee, rich in tannins, close to a lentil meal, and dairy products, whose calcium competes with iron for the same absorption pathway. Even mixing large amounts of seeds, very high in zinc and phytates, such as pumpkin seeds and cashew nuts, in the same dish can create a chelating overload in susceptible people. On the other hand, there are pairings that enhance benefits. Vitamin C from tomato, bell pepper, parsley, or lemon greatly improves the use of non-heme iron from lentils. Garlic and onion provide sulfur compounds that promote iron and zinc absorption. Turmeric helps modulate the inflammatory response. And piperine from black pepper increases curcuminoid bioavailability, while ginger supports motility and reduces gas. Mistake 4 concerns timing of consumption. The digestive system follows rhythms throughout the day. In the first hours of the morning, gastric acidity and enzyme release are still warming up, and at the end of the night, motility naturally slows down. Lentils combine fiber, starch, and protein that require more digestive effort, so they work best during the period when the body is most active. Avoid eating them within the first 2 hours after waking, after 7 p.m., and right after intense exercise when blood flow prioritizes the muscles instead of the gut. On days of high stress, the body reduces digestive enzyme production, which increases the chance of discomfort. More favorable windows are usually between late morning and mid-afternoon, and at least 3 hours before bedtime, which gives time to process the meal without affecting sleep. For those with irritable bowel syndrome, save lentils for calm days and avoid them during flare-ups. People with diabetes tend to do better with them at lunch than at dinner, since large meals late at night are linked to glucose spikes and poorer rest. In cases of reflux, avoid eating lentils within 4 hours before sleep. There are also relevant interactions with medications and supplements. Consuming them too close can reduce the absorption of levothyroxine, so separate by about 4 hours. Iron supplements compete with lentil phytates and should be taken at different times, preferably with vitamin C. Some antibiotics are less effective when taken with very high fiber foods. Mistake 5 involves storage and preservation. Cooked lentils provide an ideal environment for bacterial growth when cooled slowly or left out of the fridge. Bacillus cereus is notorious in cooked starches kept at room temperature and can produce heat-stable toxins. The SAFE protocol is clear and aligns with USDA and WHO food safety guidelines. Cool quickly from 60 degrees to 4 degrees Celsius within 2 hours. Portion into shallow, wide containers to speed heat loss. Use clean and dry tempered glass or stainless steel. Cover as soon as cooled. Keep refrigerated for up to 3 days at 4 degrees, or freeze for up to 3 months at -18 degrees, and never leave at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Now that you know the 5 deadly mistakes, it's worth bringing together the complete step-by-step formula. 24 hours before cooking, select and rinse the lentils well until the water runs clear. Place them in a glass container with filtered water at a ratio of 3:1. Add 1 tablespoon of apple cider, vinegar, or lemon juice per cup. Cover and keep in a cool place. After 12 hours, completely change the water while keeping the same ratio and acidity, and leave for another 12 hours. On the day of cooking, drain, rinse until the water is clear. Place in a thick-bottomed pot with fresh water at a ratio of 4:1. Add a small pinch of baking soda. Boil vigorously for 10 minutes while skimming off the foam, and then reduce to a gentle simmer until the desired doneness. About 25 to 30 minutes for red, 35 to 45 for green, and 40 to 50 for brown. Check doneness by pressing with a spoon. The grain should yield without a gritty center, and the broth should be slightly cloudy and clean, not foamy. At the end, drain excess water, finish with salt, portion into shallow containers, and cool quickly. When serving, pair with vitamin C. Use garlic, onion, turmeric, and ginger. Eat between late morning and early afternoon. Avoid tea, coffee, and dairy for 2 hours before and after. Remember, lentils are neither villains nor saviors on their own. They're a powerful tool that requires method. This is exactly why traditional communities always soaked them, boiled them vigorously, used carminative herbs, and cooled them carefully. Practices that modern science confirms in FAO technical guidelines on legumes and recent academic reviews. By applying this protocol, you reduce anti-nutrients, improve digestibility, protect your minerals, better control glucose, take advantage of the resistant starch effect after cooling and reheating, and turn a potentially uncomfortable food into a true ally for stable energy, satiety, and vitality.